Hey everyone, welcome into another edition of Sal's House, our first edition here in the month of July. We got a lot going on. We're going to get to in a little while. In fact, another chance for you to meet up with me, not at Sal's house, but we're taking Sal's house on the road. Want to tell you about that. A chance to meet Stevie Johnson, former Buffalo Bills wide receiver, coming up on Friday, July 12th. All right, I'll tell you all about that in a minute, but I'll tell you first about the people who are making this happen. As always, Sports City Pizza Pub. You see them right there on your screen. They have the best pizza and wings in town. If you're looking for a place to go, hang out, watch the game. They have a patio outside. That's where we're going to be meeting Stevie Johnson. I'm going to tell you all about that. 1407 Niagara Street in Buffalo. Fans of Buffalo. New sponsor as of last month coming on board. This is your place to go for all of your Buffalo travel sports destinations. I'm talking Bills road trips specifically, right? There's a lot of great road trips this year. We're going to be putting these together with fans of Buffalo, helping people out there already are doing that. And I'm going to be helping them out, making sure that, you're going to have a great time because I might even kind of show up at some of these parties that are going on. But listen, you got basically hotel accommodations, chartered flight, ticket to the game. They're going to take care of everything so you don't have to. And welcome a new sponsor starting today and this month, Buffalo Logo. I got the Buffalo Logo shirt on right now. How about that? The great people over at Buffalo Logo did a great job. They have embroidering, they have screen printing, whatever it is. BuffaloLogo.com is the place to go. We're going to talk all about them and a lot more. And in fact, as I just said a minute ago, let me tell you about Stevie Johnson. Buffalo Logo is going to be a part of this. Fans of Buffalo, of course, we're going to be talking about them. Here it is, Friday, July 12th. 1 p.m. at Sports City Pub. That is at 1407 Niagara Street. Come meet Stevie Johnson. Stevie and his partner PJ and a few other people have created a game. It's called Red Zone Football. It's sweeping the nation, of course, especially with kids of all ages. It's going to be in YMCAs and schools, and they're going to show it off. And it's a red zone game. It's a flag football game. It's super cool for kids and adults. Come watch it. We'll talk about it. You can meet Stevie Johnson Friday, July 12th, 1 p.m. at Sports City Pizza Pub. So come on out. So we got a lot of people helping out here on Sal's House. We're really growing this thing, and I really appreciate it. And I try to bring you the best guests possible and people to talk about what's happening in our world and people for you to get to know. And my special guest today is my good buddy, Dan Russell. He is now a meteorologist, Channel 2 WGRZ-TV in Buffalo. Dan joins me here at Sal's House. Dan, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Obviously known you for a few years now and been following, and to join you, here is just awesome.
Well, I appreciate it. For the last several years on my Extra Point show, we've had your colleague, Patrick Hammer, doing the weather on Friday mornings. And I'm like, man, I would love to get Dan on as well. But, Channel 2 and you're over at Spectrum. But now you're a part of the group. So you know what? We might have to squeeze you in there to give us some Friday morning updates, buddy.
Yeah, I love it. It's been a crazy few weeks here. I went from being at Spectrum for over 20 years, mornings, and then all of a sudden, and a lot of this, Sal, it happened very quickly. This transition and this opportunity that presented itself, and then ultimately, I'm already going in through my third week on air here at WGRZ. So things are rolling along, and they happen hard and fast.
Let's talk about that. I mean, how did that all come about for you? Was it just something that, hey, you couldn't pass up an opportunity? Were you looking for something different in your life? How did that happen?
Yeah, well, thanks for that, Sal. It's, throughout my life, anytime, us in the media, we use contracts, and my contracts were always expiring around big life events. And I never really even had the opportunity to even see what was out there. And when I was happy with my role at Spectrum for most of my career there, my contract was coming up back in early June. And so for the first time really in my entire career, I put a reel together and I just started feeling what was out there. Spectrum did try to retain me. They didn't want to lose me, but ultimately WGRZ found out that I was going to be available, and ultimately they gave me an offer, an opportunity that I had to take.
What has the transition been like working different day parts from where you were for many years to what you're doing now?
Yeah, it's definitely a transition. If you know me, I'm a morning guy. I'm a wake up, get after it, let's go. And then as the day goes on, my energy starts going down like that. And when we get into like weekend evenings, I'm that early bird. So that has been a bit of a transition. I'll say this: it is nice now, not really having to get up using an alarm clock. My body can just naturally wake up, and that has been fairly nice. But those late nights, still getting used to.
You said around big life events a lot of times. I don't think that
Yeah.
you're planning necessarily. Are you planning your contract to expire around big life events, or do they just happen? And what have been some of
Yep.
those big life events that have occurred over those years?
So my previous contract was June 7th was the end of my contract date. My previous, it was a 4-year contract. So 2024 minus 4 years, it was June 2020. We were 3 months into a lockdown. Nobody obviously was hiring at that point. So I had to, I didn't even try to look out, anywhere else, and pretty much accepted what Spec was going to give me. My previous 4-year contract was 2016 that my wife and I, we bought our house here on Lake Erie. And obviously we love that, and didn't want to, couldn't disrupt that. And then prior to that was my move I was a meteorologist in Syracuse for 8.5 years.
Okay.
And so prior to that was when they transitioned me from a morning meteorologist in Syracuse to the morning meteorologist actually located here in Buffalo, because I was actually doing Buffalo weather when we launched the station in 2009, but I was doing it out of Syracuse. So they wanted to put a Met on the ground in Western New York. And ultimately that was that transition. My previous contract in 2009 was when my son was born. And then prior to that, 06 was probably the one time I could have really kind of seen what was out there. But I was early in my career and happy with what at the time Time Warner Cable was offering.
So I actually, I've never revealed this. I'm going to say this to publicly now. People will
Sure.
find out, like, wow. I actually try to tie my contract to when the radio rights for the Bills kind of expire for WGR, because, you just want to in life kind of have options and survey the landscape, right?
Yep.
I mean, I love my job. I don't want to leave WGR. But I mean, if for something were to happen in this, this is a business, right? If something were to happen and the Bills were to go to another station or something were to happen, I generally try to tie my contract into those dates and around that time period for me to, because we have to think about those things in life, no doubt about it.
Yep, unlike the standard jobs and careers out there, absolutely, we do have these contracts, and but ultimately, everything really has led to this moment. Even some of the things that happened at Spectrum over the last couple of years, really has led me to this moment and this opportunity, and where I'm at right now, including even becoming a football coach. That really allowed me to build my ability as a leader, as being more vocal, and that really has also, I think, put me in position where I'm at right now to take this opportunity at WGRZ.
Well, I'm glad you brought up football coach, because I want to talk about that in your journey, because that's how you and I got to know each other. I think first and foremost is I was doing games for Spectrum, actually, and just so happened one of the games that I was doing a few years ago was your high school football team that you were coaching, and I knew you from TV. We got to know each other a little bit. You and I are very similar like this. We both worked in media, and we've both been high school football coach.
Yes.
And I'm interested how you started down that path.
Yeah.
And that journey, and how it was to navigate your real job with being a high school football coach.
Well, so I was a former college football player.
Where'd you play?
I was an offensive guard. I don't look like it now, but I used to be about 6'2", 275. I was an athlete. I was a polling guard. I was a left guard that did a lot of polling. That was my specialty. So that's my playing background. So I did play at a fairly high level. I was county and all that in Section 5. So I have that background. Never thought I would have a chance to be a coach. And obviously my son, growing up, wanted to play football, and they have a great little loop league here at Lakeshore, the Lakeshore Junior Eagles. And he started playing he started playing Pee Wee when he was 5 years old. Obviously I naturally kind of got into coaching there, quickly becoming a head coach, and then really just building a reputation with the parents, the players. And in 2018, so that was in, I believe, 2014 or 2015. We're going back a while ago when my son's about to be 15, so 10 years ago. And in 2018, the job opened it up here at Lakeshore for a head coach. And ultimately, initially, I wasn't even going to apply. I didn't think I would even get it. But I had so many parents that were telling me, "Dad, you got to do this. You're awesome with the kids. You got great energy. The kids love you, So, Sal, and the amount of time it takes. Now, luckily, my wife, her father was a wrestling coach for Victor High School in Section 5 for many years. He's in the Section 5 Wrestling Hall of Fame. And so she grew up with a coach in the family and understands the amount of time that you are away. So that was the very first conversation I had was, hon, is it okay if I do this, knowing the amount of time and commitment and sacrifice that's going to take? And once she gave the clear for that, went through the interview process, and next thing you know, they hired me. And again, I'm a non-teacher, so it's a bit of a rarity. However, you're starting to see a little bit more of that for schools that just want to get the right candidate. So they are starting to go a little bit more outside the school districts. But yeah, so 2018 became the coach. Not much experience, and at that time, Lakeshore really didn't even have a football program, per se. They were losing numbers. There was even talking at that time, we were Class A. There was talk of Lakeshore having to combine with another school just to put a football team out there. And again, we're Class A, so we have a plenty of student athletes. And the previous 3 years, they'd only won one win a season those 3 years. So even my athletic director, Daryl Bassant, he goes, that first year, I knew it was going to be like drinking water out of a fire hose for whoever got the job. But ultimately, my goal was to bring fun back to playing the game, and that was my first goal. I wanted to make sure my guys were having fun, because that's really why we're doing that. We're having fun, and we're making those memories that, Sal, that we still talk about when we get together with our old buddies and old teammates, and we still talk about, those days. And so I got hired, and then it was just from there, it was starting to build it. And I was a year and a half into building it into the program. So we won 2 games my first year, which again was the most more than the previous 3 seasons. My next year we went 3-5. We beat a team in Maryvale that we lost by a lot the previous season. So we're showing that growth. We're really excited for that 2019 or I believe 2020 season, and then COVID hit. And ultimately, we weren't allowed to do any kind of off-season work or any kind of development with my guys, and so that kind of put a little bit of a pause on our program building. And then so we made it through the COVID season, and then we came into 2021 there, and that was actually the opening week where you did get to where you were announcing our game, where we had one of those Friday Night Light games. And I had a really young team. That was almost like the true reset, as they say, of building a program and a team. I only had 3 seniors on that roster, if you remember. I had to pull up a bunch of JV players just to make sure we had enough guys, because it was also the year we transitioned from 2 programs, a varsity modified program to a varsity JV modified program. So our numbers got bigger, and I knew that was going to be a tough year. It was one of those years that my goal was I just had to keep my guys up, positive, just keep at it, because ultimately, from a competitive standpoint, we knew where we weren't quite yet. And that was, but, we made it through that season, a lot of positivity, a lot of growth. And then ultimately we were able to propel that into a fairly decent 2022 season, where we ended up winning the Chuck Funky Championship at the end of the year, really playing our best football at the end of the year. We beat Cheektowaga by in a great game there. We beat Blueport in the championship 49-0. So it showed our growth. And then ultimately, going into last season, so we took that momentum and just ran with it all throughout last off season. Our 7-on-7, our lifting program, I call our Iron Eagle lifting program, and had an amazing really season last year in 2023, where we went 5-3 during the regular season. That's the most wins we've had for any Lakeshore team for a football program since 2004. I was the B2 Coach of the Year. We had more all-star players than we've ever had before. So it was just an awesome growth and progression, and we still have a lot of those guys even coming back this upcoming season. So
you're still doing it. You're still the head coach. I mean, this transition to Channel 2 hasn't changed that in any regard. And
Sal, so the one downside, and to be honest, this was the hardest decision, is I did have to step down as head coach. And a lot of that's because of the hours. I was mornings at Spectrum for 20 years. They really, at WGRZ, really saw me as a piece for for a couple of their evening shows. Right. Most Buffalo, the 5:30 and the 11 which is where you'll see me now. And of course, those are the hours where I would be usually on a football field, on a practice field. So I did have to step down, and that was, to be honest, that was a hard decision. That was a
Sure,
very difficult
absolutely.
decision. And I mean, and those connections. I remember I walked in to tell my guys, before it got out and clear, I wanted to make sure they heard it from me. So I had a meeting first with my athletic director, and he was aware of the potential over, leading up to that. But when it became official, I remember walking in, and then literally I couldn't even. I was tears racing down because I was, I'm so emotionally connected to my guys and then my team. And same thing when I told the team, but the support that they have shown me has really made this so easy and so comfortable, and has allowed me to be excited about this move, despite how much maybe some internal hurt that I might have given up what I did love doing, but it was my players right from the get-go. Even my star quarterback, Rob Gillette, who Stevie Johnson actually knows. He was on his show called Exposure Academy last season.
Awesome, love it.
So he was one of the first guys. He wasn't at the meeting. Obviously, I called him right away, and he was just so supportive. He was, Coach, you've given everything to us. We love you. We understand. You got to do this. We're thank you. And even since, they've been sending, I'm still getting messages, and that was a month ago, and I'm still getting some text messages just saying how proud they are of me and how excited they are for the opportunity.
Awesome. And reminder, and as Dan just brought up about Stevie Johnson, we're going to be having Stevie Johnson at Sal's house. We're going to take it on the road. Sports City Pizza Pub, that's coming up July 12th. That is going to be a show where we're going to be basically showing off Stevie's game that he's created with a few other people. It's called Red Zone Football. So Dan, it's going to be really cool. Kids are playing it around the country now. Red Zone Football. It's a great way it's a new way to kind of play the game, and it's a safe way to play the game, but it's also very cool and high energy. And go check it out. But you can find out more about that. But maybe more importantly for everybody, meeting Stevie Johnson, 1:00.
Yeah.
Sports City Pizza Pub, July 12th. Come on by and make sure that you're there and being a part of that. I want to thank Sports City Pizza Pub. Of course, they are always a part of what we're doing here on Sal's house. Thank you very much for them to be a part of it. And of course, we want to thank our other sponsors, which are Buffalo Logo, brand new. Look at that shirt, Buffalo. Yeah, come and get a Buffalo Logo shirt. I know Stevie's good friends with the guys at Buffalo Logo, Eric Westfield and his team. They're doing a great job. Fans of Buffalo. We're going to be having Fans of Buffalo. Lots of trips coming up this year. Go to fansofbuffalo.com. They're going to be booking for Bills trips. They got your hotel accommodations, chartered flight, ticket to the game. You don't have to worry about anything. They're going to take care of it for you. And of course, Sports City Pizza Pub. Dan Russell here at Sal's house. So I apologize if you said, where did you play college football?
SUNY Brockport.
Brockport. Okay.
Yeah, SUNY Brockport.
Did you study meteorology there? Like, how did you get into meteorology? How did you love it?
Well, I grew up here in Western New York, 2 miles from Lake Ontario. So I traded one lake for the other lake, and right on the south shore there of Lake Ontario. And really from about 6 years old, fascinated with the weather. Grew up just obsessed with the Weather Channel. We're talking, this was the Weather Channel's heyday, a real heyday back in the 90s. And, and so grew up with that, just really developed a passion throughout my high school career. I had an opportunity to shadow and intern a lot of meteorologists, whether it was in Rochester or Buffalo. And then ultimately went on to study it and graduate from SUNY Brockport in 2004.
That's pretty cool. I also am a big Weather Channel fan. I'm a big Jim Cantori fan, and I lived in Florida for a while. And the old joke was, if Jim Cantori visits your town, then you're in trouble, right? I mean, because something's happening there, no doubt about that. I've gone down the rabbit hole a few times. I don't know if you've ever done this, but I'll go back and watch YouTube of like Hurricane Andrew and the old graphics where they do the hurricane physically, right? It's like the old
quite a contrast.
It's like a Fenway Park scoreboard and putting it's not digital, right? And it's crazy. And you watch hurricane coverage like that. Right now we have a big hurricane going on down at, it's called Beryl. And what is happening with this, and why is it so intense this early in the season?
It's easy. The surface water, the fuel for tropical systems is the warmth, the surface water temperatures of whether it's the Atlantic, the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico. The warmer that water, the more fuel there is. And throughout the entire spring and going in now into early summer, we've seen just some crazy anomalous warmth whether it's in the Caribbean, the Atlantic, the Gulf. So because those water temperatures are so much warmer than average, that's why we're getting these storms now that can get stronger than they were able to do this time of year because the water temperatures are so warm. And Sal, I've got to mention it. While Beryl is a monster right now, I think this is really only the beginning of what's going to turn out to be a very active hurricane season.
Yeah, is that because of what you just said? Like, there's just a
Yep.
lot of warmth, surface air temperature that's kind of just lingering out there. You see, we watch it, and obviously people might be aware, might not, but you watch these waves come off like
Yep.
Africa, and they say these
Yep.
tropical waves, and they're the ones that start churning. Is it go all the way to there? Is it like that's all very favorable?
Yeah, well, that's so when you get the Lesser Antilles storms that come off, the issue with that now they're in that open water and they're allowed to grow and really develop into these monsters because they have that time to do so. Now, the good thing about that, it also allows us a lot of time to track and prepare for these storms as they are on approach. So that's a good thing about those storms that do develop that far to the east. There's a couple other things. So it wasn't just the surface water temperatures. We also are transitioning, globally from El Nino to actually La Nina.
Okay.
And El Nino, which is where in the Pacific, the water temperatures are above average. A lot of times when we're in El Nino, that means the favorable conditions are in the Pacific and not in the Atlantic. It's actually kind of rare where you'll get favorable conditions in both the Pacific and the Atlantic. So what's happening is we're transitioning from that unfavorable El Nino to now a La Nina, and that is also going to allow the upper levels of the dynamics of the atmosphere to also be more conducive for development.
So how does all that possibly affect here in Western New York this summer? Oh, long-term picture, what
Yep.
you just explained, what's happening globally. Does that have an impact on us here?
Well, it all depends on the track of these systems. I also think, though, we're also looking at, because of those surface water temperatures, a very strong, what we call the Bermuda High, which is a big area of high pressure that sits roughly around Bermuda. It is going to be stronger than average. And as a result, we're going to have, and we're already seeing it, a lot of unusual warmth. So I think temperature-wise, our above average temperatures, they're going to keep rolling along. We just had our 5th month in a row. June finished as the 6th warmest June in recorded history here in Buffalo. And that was 5 months in a row of seeing a top 10 warm month. And I do think that trend is also going to continue through summer, at least above average temperatures because of a big area of high pressure. Then as far as rain goes, it really comes down to track. Even as far as storms, hitting the coast, we've had some very active seasons where we even went through the entire alphabet and even into the Greek alphabet. But if none of those systems are just turning out into the Pacific, they don't really have an impact, and you forget about that. So when it comes to impact on the U.S., obviously more storms, better chance of seeing a landfalling hurricane. However, there are some years where we also get maybe 4, 5, 6, storm. Maybe look at Hurricane Andrew. You brought that up. That was late August.
Yeah.
And that was an A storm. That was the first named storm of the season. And that wasn't until late August. So again, it really, you never know when it comes to the impact of these kind of seasons. But obviously, with more storms, at least there's greater chances of seeing those impacts.
Does it say anything about what could happen in the winter here? Is that too unpredictable, basically? What you're saying now and how the summer pattern works, transitioning to winter, can we get anything from that?
A little bit as far as what happens in the tropics, not as much so, but La Nina, that is something obviously we're going to be tracking going into the winter months because La Nina does have an impact, and depending on the strength of it, when we do get into fall, that's ultimately when we'll have a better idea of what we can expect for the winter.
I lived through Hurricane Charlie and went through Hurricane Charlie in 2004, where I lived on the West Coast. When I'd moved to Florida in 1995, I had said to myself, you know what? I'd like to go through a hurricane someday, because you think like, I've never been through it. Then I went through it 9 years later, and I never want to go through that again. It's really horrific. And being a part of that, I don't know if you've ever, experienced that particular, because you've been a meteorologist here in Buffalo necessarily, but from your colleagues, the violence of these storms.
Oh yeah.
And it really, really is. And when I see it out there now, I get anxious and nervous. And last year, actually, was it Irma? Maybe, I can't remember which one, came through right through where I used to live. And I know a lot of people who really were devastated and lost their homes and things like that. mean,
That
these
was Fort
things could be,
Myers Beach, correct?
yes, Fort Myers
Yeah,
Beach.
Fort
And it
Myers
was a,
Beach got devastated, and
that's
then
right.
even up to what is that? Cape Coral is
Yeah, so
just
even
north.
above that, where I lived in a little town called Englewood, which is on Boca Grande, and I live in
Okay.
this town, so a little south of Sarasota, and it's just this, and it's just this little area there, and that got hit and hammered pretty hard. And these storms are just, they get so intense, and it seems like they're just getting more and more intense as our world is changing as well, Dan. And that's what's scary
Yep.
about it.
Yeah, I mean, think about the some of the severe thunderstorms we see here. And you
Yeah,
get those few brief moments where you get those winds that are potentially damaging winds, 70, 80 miles an hour. And it only lasts maybe 30, 40 seconds where you get that extreme scenario with these severe thunderstorms. Now, I mean, you know this, Al. Now imagine that lasting for, instead of, maybe a minute, now it's lasting for 12 hours.
yeah.
And even stronger way. I mean, so it's hard to even fathom, being in those kind of environments until you, like you said, until you actually do experience it.
We lost power at our house for a week, and we were lucky. That was the only thing that really happened. We lost some
Yeah.
power. I think I had a little bit of a shed that kind of was beaten up a little bit. We had no power for a week, and we were lucky because I lived across the street from a middle school. Well, that middle school was shut down for a week. You know why? Because they were housing people who lost their homes,
Oh, wow.
and they were literally living inside the gymnasium. And
Wow.
we would go over there and help out and do some laundry for people and things like that. And when you see the real life impact of things like that, it
Yep.
brings it home. So the work that you do to kind of help people prepare and be ready for these kinds of storms, whether it's a blizzard here,
Yep.
hurricanes out there, it's also vitally important, and people need to understand that. And I got to know very well because of the media work I did with the emergency management team
Yep.
that was down there in Florida. And those are the people that really kind of, you have to pay attention to it those times of year, whether that's a blizzard here in Buffalo
Yeah.
or a hurricane or anything like that. That's where people like you and people who are in government who tell you, hey, what's happening, and the resources are very valuable.
Yep, absolutely, and I think we're going to need that even more so. In the coming years. I talked
Yes.
about this actually with Patrick. A couple of weeks ago when we were hanging out, and I was mentioning the fact that, and he was in agreement. I think the ideas of, like, for especially here in Western New York, a harsh winter. I don't think we're ever going to see a harsh winter anymore. What we're going to see, though, are harsh events in winter. We saw that even last year. Winter in general last year was easy, but we had that week and a half stretch there in January. It was brutal. That was pretty much all of winter right there in January. And then obviously the year before, it was, if you look at the season as a whole, it was relatively calm and not too bad. But you throw in the Christmas blizzard and the November storm, two harsh events that changed the whole dynamic. And I think we're going to see more of those harsh events mixed in with relatively mild and not too harsh of seasons. So it is going to become more about, I think, these severe impact events moving forward.
All right, Dan, let's wrap it up with weather this weekend. It's a July 4th holiday weekend. Pretty much, it starts on Thursday, of course.
Yep.
Friday night and throughout the weekend, Savannah Bananas are coming to town to Buffalo. We're going to see them with my son and our travel baseball team. But of course, a lot of people are going to be getting together for the holiday and the weekend. And what are we looking at here in Western New York for the July 4th weekend?
Well, over the next few days, including today, there's going to be about 2 windows and 2 opportunities where we'll at least have some scattered showers and storms. We're not looking at any washouts, nothing like, say, what we saw this past Saturday when where it was just coming down in buckets for hours and hours and hours. Any showers or storms we do see in these 2 windows are going to be short-lived. They're not going to last too long. So for those that are prepared, you can duck inside for a little bit and then get right back to the picnic and celebrating. So, for example, today, I know there's a lot of events going on today. It would be roughly the window of 4 to about 8 o'clock, where I think we're going to have the best chance for some hit or miss showers and storms. So not everyone's going to see them. And as I said, even yesterday, keep those plans, but maybe especially during the dinner time, at least have a backup plan in place in case you need it. But hopefully, and it looks as though a lot of these hit or miss shower storms do clear out in time for the evening tonight. So I know there's fireworks shows even starting tonight at 10 p.m. We should be okay by then. There might be an isolated shower, but I think the best chance for that's going to be well inland. We'll clear out tonight. Tomorrow's going to be a beautiful day. The 4th of July is probably the best day. I know, right? The 4th of July is probably the best day in this entire stretch here. It's still going to be warm, still going to be summery. For the picnics, on the beach, the pool, whatever it is, going to be a nice day for the pool and the beach. Winds are going to be lighter than today. We're still going to have temperatures in the 80s. And any morning clouds will give way to at least partly sunny skies for the afternoon and evening. that quiet weather carries over into most of Friday, but then here comes that second window, and I know a lot of people are going to be keeping an eye on this one, especially for the Savannah Bananas game there. The next chance will also be late Friday night, where again, hit or miss showers and storms. So hopefully we get into that miss category in and around Buffalo, but I would imagine there'll at least be a few around. So that's something we'll be watching. And as we get closer to Friday evening, of course, we can also get better with the timing of that system. That clears out later Friday night. And outside of maybe a leftover shower Saturday, the weekend's also looking pretty good. So with temperatures still within a couple of degrees of 80, both Saturday, Sunday, and even early next week looks pretty good with the next system not arriving until Tuesday. So yeah, this evening and Friday evening looks to be the two main windows where we may have to dodge some rain.
And I'm looking a little bit ahead. Always it's warm at Bill's training camp. That's coming up, obviously, the end of July. And we're looking at a lot of times, 80s, mid 80s. It looks like some of that weather's coming back a little bit. So it looks like we're going to have some nice warm weather for the Bills out at St. John Fisher.
I would expect, those good thing Sean McDermott likes those morning sessions because, I like them too, yes. And so I do want to mention this. So as far as my football program, I want to briefly mention I'm a part of it. I'm going to be running our strength and conditioning program.
I love it. Well, good for you. I mean, and you said you played guard, right? So what is your offensive philosophy when you're playing? Are you a ground and pound guy? Are you an Eric Coryell kind of guy?
Well, I always tell my linemen, and I am the offensive coordinator. I was the offensive coordinator, but I always tell my heart is with them because I am a true believer, even all the way up to the NFL. Games are truly won and lost there in the trenches because an offensive line can make anybody look better, and yes. They can make the good player look great, the great player look excellent, and so on. And but at the same time, my philosophy was always I want to make sure I take advantage of my own players' skills. So if I had an offensive line that can ground and pound and give me those yards, absolutely I would do it. If I had a quarterback that could throw, lasers to the outside, so I try to whatever my offense. I don't really have that one philosophy and then try to put my players into it. I adjust my philosophy to whatever my players' strengths were. Wow. In previous years, I was a fan of a running quarterback, so I always had more of a spread offense. But at the same time, it was a spread. I like to call it a spread power run offense with a lot of. So I like to spread that defense out, and then we like to run power with just our big five guys and maybe a quarterback and running back there in the middle with. There's a quarterback GT, for example, is one of my favorite plays. Even saw Josh Allen score a touchdown. And that's where the quarterback will actually fake the handoff. And then the backside guard and tackle come around. And you got kick out block with the guard. The tackle comes up through. And I remember Josh Allen it was about an 8-yard touchdown run right behind Deion Dawkins. That was the one where Deion Dawkins just leveled the guy.
Yes.
He came through on a GT, which was awesome. I immediately sent it to all my linemen because I was just like, look at this block, on a GT. So that's always one of my favorite plays.
Well, there's a reason why as people who listen to me long enough know, I'm a wing T guy. I even have the Delaware wing T book. Yeah. I can't show it on the screen here. There it is.
There it is.
T, right there's I know. Sorry about the because we had the virtual background here.
Yep.
The Delaware wing T, and literally this is the book of. Tubby Raymond, who basically, there you go.
Who
wrote the book. So sorry about the virtual background, but I'm a wing T guy, but same thing. Coaching the wing T long time ago down in Florida. But then we had a bunch of athletes. We said, we got to get these guys. We got to throw the ball. We can't just run wing T, running the ball all the time. And we opened it up and we had a really successful team, but I'm the same way. And that play, we would call that counter gap. And we could either have the quarterback keep it or hand it off. And that'd be the same thing though. GT counter. See, there you go. It doesn't matter. It's football's football, right? I love it.
Exactly.
Dan, thank you for doing this today. I really appreciate it. Before you head off, I want to remind everybody about our sponsors here. Sports City Pizza Pub, 1407 Niagara Street. Dan, you got to come in. You got to try the pizza, the wings, the beer. I don't know if you've been there or not. It's a great spot to watch all the games. They got just TV surrounding you wherever you are. There's a big patio, and we're going to have Stevie Johnson at Sports City Pizza Pub July 12th. Come on by, 1 p.m., everybody. Enjoy your lunch. Come on out. Learn about Red Zone football. Meet Stevie. I'll be there. Fans of Buffalo. Go to fansofbuffalo.com. They're building your premier Buffalo travel package. They're going to take you on the road on a chartered plane. They have your hotel package, your destination, your hotel, I should say, taken care of for you. Travel to and from the game from your hotel, tailgating needs. You don't have to take care of everything because they're going to take care of it for you. And Buffalogo. Thanks for Buffalogo for joining on here at Sal's house. I'm wearing the Buffalogo shirt right now. You can too. And check out all the great products they have at buff-a-logo.com. Dan Russell, WGRZ-TV Channel 2. Thanks a lot, buddy. I really appreciate you doing this, especially
Thank you.
with a holiday weekend coming up.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.